Good morning. Okay, there we are. Good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome to this webinar. My name is Christine van den Einde and I'm working at the ETF. And together with Pirita, I have been involved in the ETF project, scaling up the Western Balkan agri-food sector from the beginning as of 2022. We are very happy to welcome you to this second webinar that is organized for you, all the members of the agri-food network. This network that has been established during the project, the ETF project, and it is still growing, and we are very happy to see the network growing. We see many familiar faces, but also some new people that are attending and joining us today. And a special welcome also to them. This webinar is co-organized together with Biosense Institute from Novi Sad. We have here Jasna and Milica with us. As many of you know, as of next year, 2026, they will take over the full coordination and functioning of the network. So as I said, this network, this event is open to all the members, and we hope that still others will attend later on. The objective of today is to share with you some knowledge and insight of topics that were identified by you as interesting areas to learn more about. And it's divided into three blocks of each more or less 15 minutes. And the first block is Pirita Vuorinen from ETF. Many of you know her. She will be sharing the insights of the final report of the ETF project, and she will share the most interesting insights of that study. The second block, we already know that there are already several spin-off and activities and project proposals ongoing that came out of this project. But nevertheless, there is still the need felt to share you still more information about EU funding opportunities, such as Erasmus+, Horizon, IPA, EIT, and we hope that still more project proposals will come out in the future. So Biosense Institute will give some more in-depth information of the different opportunities, not so much in-depth, but give you also many useful links where you can find additional information later on. And then the third block is we have a special guest for Luc van Loveren from Belgium. He's Senior Advisor EU Relations of the Chamber of Commerce in Flanders. We know that many companies in the region still struggle in exporting their products to the EU single market because of the many complex EU regulations and standards that you have to consider and to comply with. So we have invited Luc van Loveren to give you some tips and to guide you where you can find additional information, more detailed information to access the EU single market. So these are the three blocks. I hope you will learn. That's the objective of this webinar. Each of the blocks will also dedicate a few minutes in questions and answers, but we will already invite you to keep also, in case we cannot address all the answers, we will address them separately, surely by email as well. So without any delays, I will now give the floor to Pirita, who will give us more insights on the final report of the ETF study on the agri-food project. So Pirita, the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning, everybody. It's been a while that we've not seen each other. Hope you're all doing well. I'm trying to find, it's not, I'm trying to find my presentation and on Zoom, the link, but it is not showing it for me in the share thing. So this is the reason why the organizers have the backup of the PowerPoint. Would you please share the PowerPoint from your end? Because for some reason, it's not showing to me on the documents that I can share. Super. All right, thank you. So you can straight move on to the next slide. I think everybody kind of knows my name at this point. One second.
We can hear you, huh?
Yeah, no, because there was a little technical problem at my end. All right, so let's get going. So we've been discussing over the last few years already the different skills needs in the agri-food sector. We started with the call, we identified the companies, we identified the different stakeholders that add value in terms of skills to company skills needs. And this is kind of the final report where we bring a lot of the points together. I will share the link to it at the end of this presentation. So I'll put a timer because I had a timer on, but now I don't see it either, so that Christine doesn't have to stop me. So here you see I'll summarize a few points here, which are the key things. First of all, we did a patent research, so we looked at the patent families for both the it says agri-tech here, but it actually looks, agri-tech looks at both the biochemical and digital services and products in the agri-food sector, and we looked at food processing. So here we clearly see that there is we mapped the increase in patent activity between around 2011, 2017, which you see here clearly. And there's been really significant patent activity in the agri-tech sector. If I remember correctly, it was around 140 inventions per year globally. And in 66 different technologies and technology-related topics. So there's clearly a stabilization period that we're experiencing right now, but still the digital side, as we also see from the companies who are part of the network, is still very much the most active part. The next, what we did, can you move on to the next slide? I'm trying to slide them, change them here. The next thing that we did is we looked at as how the different technologies have been adopted in different countries. You may remember that we did, I think it's already nearly 2 years ago when we looked at technology transfer, and we looked at what kind of support mechanisms are in place to support technology transfer in your countries. So here we look at things from a different perspective. So we looked at the global score. So the global score is essentially the number of worldwide inventions and their growth rate. So the closer you are to one, the higher the impact these technologies are going to have on these sectors, and therefore also on the company skills needs. For instance, one of the interesting things for me is that on this slide, which I hope you see, because for me, I have a problem with my screen. Here we go. So you see here, for instance, robotics and autonomous vehicles is one of the highest impact on the agri-tech sector. Yet, in many of the countries here, except for Serbia, in robotics, the patent research and the research on technology adoption that we saw shows that there's very little activity here, but we all know that this is actually not correct, because we do have active companies that are active in these areas, and that's exactly what shows the specialization and the importance of your authorities in your countries really supporting through skills development these emerging niche markets where there's tremendous potential and huge impact on the entire sector, on having companies that develop these kind of technological solutions. Next slide, please. So here we have the same, oops, I think you skipped the slide, but it doesn't matter. Because I think you went over 2 slides, but it doesn't matter. So let's go here. We also have the same information for, yeah, here we go, for the biotech. So here we see that the most impactful areas are sometimes the areas where the countries, according to research, don't have a lot of activity going on at the company level. But again, we do have several companies that are, for instance, working on biological fertilizers and so on. So again, remember that many of you, the companies that are part of this project and this network, you're actually in those areas where really the biggest impact is. And that's why it's important that we pass this message to policymakers on the kind of impact your companies can potentially have on the economy and on employment in the country in the future. You can move to the next slide. The same information for the organic and functional food subsector, because we were split into two. Here we see still significant patent activity, but it's significantly lower than in the agri-tech sector for obvious reasons. You can skip to the next slide, please. Again, here the same thing. So we look at how much the different countries are ready to adopt, which looks essentially how much companies are already working with technologies. I should probably say that this is not based on just data. This is also have been validated through expert consultations, and it's really, again, shows the same thing as in the agri-tech, that probiotics, for instance, we have companies that work on that. It's very important for your policymakers to see that, and also for you to know that you're actually working in a very a niche market that has tremendous potential. Let's move forward. Okay, I didn't take the examples from the organic sector, but here we basically then transferred the information from the technology developments and how they're shaping skills demand. We transferred that into skills for agri-tech, the three subsectors, and also for organic and functional foods. I won't go into these details because you can find this all in the report, which I'll share in the end. You can move to the next slide. Then we transferred the skills into the different occupations that will see the highest change. This is, again, very important information for policymakers, but again, very good justifications when you're developing projects, whether it's under Erasmus or Horizon and so on and so forth. You can skip to the next slide. Then we talked a lot about the different needs that you have, how they're actually being met with the skills supply. We had a lot of discussions about the effectiveness of vocational education and training in supplying particularly the relevant practical skills. We talked about some of the challenges across the region, which was the slow and limited adoption of programs to the labor market needs. So often companies felt that there was a big gap between education training provision and what the actual needs of companies and also your users. So we didn't just talk about the companies that work in the project, but also the clients of the companies. We talked about the lack of training programs that look at digital skills. So often digital skills is a standalone training, whereas the need was more to have trainings that were combined. We talked about the outdated technologies used in education and training and the need to collaborate with businesses to improve that. We talked about the insufficient practical learning opportunities, which then translate into workplace integration issues. And we talked about the teacher training. So this was also something that companies felt also you felt very ready to also support teacher upskilling. We talked also about work-based learning. We talked about a lot, again, about the school and company cooperation, that it's very rare and usually just informal. And there's definitely a push from companies to do more. And we talk about the adult learning, which is really due to the fast pace of technological development, the need is very much in the adult learning element. And we also talked a lot about how you as companies are providing a lot of training, despite the fact that statistically speaking, it is often said that small and medium companies and startups actually don't provide a lot of training to their staff. We've proven that to the contrary, is that actually you do provide a lot when you're in these niche markets. You can move to the next slide. So then when it comes to higher education, this is something that we discussed a lot, because oftentimes what we actually see as more vocational skills often companies saw that this is something that is more a higher education skill, because we talked a lot that there is a level that is required between vet and higher education, which is lacking. We talked a lot in the agri-tech sector specifically about the decrease in students going into agriculture-related studies and an increase in ICT programs and the need to have something in between. And we talked a lot about the agri-tech graduates specifically having problems with the practical skills and needing to be retrained with more practical skills once they enter the labor market. You can move to the next slide. So some of the conclusions that we found is that also from company perspective, for those of you who are developing solutions, new products, new services, is that skill shortages, especially also in your consumer base, so the farmers, is really a threat to innovation, because if you don't have markets where you can sell your products and your domestic market is also not pulling, this is really an obstacle also for you to innovate together and for the users of your technologies. We talked a lot about the skills required that are required across many sectors and with specific knowledge. This is something that really was hard to find. So having an agriculture sector broader understanding with specific knowledge, for instance, in some digital elements is very, very hard to find. We talked about the low attractiveness of individuals who possess the right skills because agri-food and agri-tech is still often seen by the younger generation as unattractive. It's not seen as the potential that it has. So there's a reputational issue there, which companies can help address with by working with companies and with education training providers and providing more of these practical and real-life experiences, what working in agri-tech or organic food today really means, because there is a wrong perception. The problem is also that we saw also that education training providers are kind of reluctant to offer more training when there is already no demand. So we're kind of in this cycle where there's no demand and therefore no education training offer. So we need to find a catalyst to break this cycle. And for me, one of the main things that from this whole working with you for several years has been that the fact that there are these skills shortages, it pushes for more cooperation also from companies. So this is, I think, something that the policymakers really need to wake up to and see that there is a tremendous push from companies, very small companies, micro and startups and small companies, to work better together. And the openness that you've shown, I think, has surprised everybody. You can skip to the next slide. Don't worry, Christine, this is my last one. So when we come to recommendations, what we noticed is that already from the beginning when we started working with you is that there's a disconnect between the national strategies and what you as companies see on the ground. So national strategies look at smart specialization, they prioritize what you're doing, but you do not see the support. It's not reflected in implementation. There's a really important need to support technology adoption through more collaborative working opportunities. I'll never forget this when Serjan came to me with 2 pages of comments after the first networking event and said, Pirita, listen, these are the comments, and we were surprised by, like, sometimes we really don't need to do much but to provide the collaborative opportunity for companies, ministries, education training providers. You make the change happen yourself. We don't always need to provide all the answers for you. That we are already moving, and Christine's leading on this, looking at micro-credentials and addressing concrete solutions to address the findings of this collaborative work that we've done among ourselves. Work-based learning is emerging very much. I just discussed my colleague who shares my office in the ETF is actually the person who leads on work-based learning. We just had a discussion on this yesterday. I already mentioned about the younger generation seeing farming as a career. skills intelligence, I think there's a lot of skills intelligence, not just quantitative, but the qualitative really needs to be used by policymakers, and it is being used already. Just for your information, this is new for you, but we've received a request to support Montenegro with the skills needs analysis for all of their smart specialization strategy in next year. So policymakers are really picking up on this dynamic and the information that you provide. And something we've talked a lot, and what I think really highlights also the importance of the handover to Biosense, is that there's this huge need for this cooperation that has been generated through this project as a platform to then generate national cooperation, regional cooperation, and cooperation with EU institutions, and then to use the EU funding instruments to actually fund some of the key findings that have come from the report. In 2024, 2025, there's been well over a dozen different submissions from you to Erasmus, EIT, and many other funding instruments. So we will unpack the what has come from that in the meeting in September, October that we will organize. That has definitely been like a really important element in driving also the discussions here. So we'll see in September, October what the result is. But many of the recommendations have already been adopted from this report. That's it. I'm done with my presentation. I will just add quickly to the link to the presentation. Sorry, to the I can't see anything now. Sorry, to the publication. Here we go, and you can find it there. And that's it. I'm done with my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pirita. Thank you so much. Actually, your last recommendation really goes into the next speakers immediately about the EU funding and the need for indeed regional cooperation, which is one of the main objectives as well of our platform and network. Before I give the floor to Biosense, just if there is one burning question, we could take it. Otherwise, we move on. I see no hands or nothing in the chat. Okay, keep it in case you can still ask it later. Okay, so please, I'll now give the floor to Jasna Milica for the EU funding opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you can now see the screen.
Yes.
Hopefully, I'm going into full. Okay. So good morning from my side. My name is Milica Trajković, and I'm head of Innovation and Business Development Department of Biosense Institute. And here together with me is my dear colleague Jasna, basically not physically with me, but sharing this task. Jasna, are you? I hope you are with us. Any case, so let's. I can see.
I'm here. I'm here. My name is Jasna Vastilović, and I'm working at Biosense and supporting Biosense, and in the future supporting also this network in approaching different funding opportunities and recognizing the opportunities within European and other programs that are supporting cooperation, innovation, research, and anything else. Thank you.
Thanks. So yeah, you might ask yourselves why the two of us are here. Basically, one of the main roles that I have within the institute is to assure income diversification for the entire institute and all our activities. So that is, let's say, one of the core things that I'm focused on, and therefore we did the same exercise as we're doing for our researchers for this network as well. So why we're here? Of course, not. It's obvious to talk about funding opportunities, but I would like to build on what Pirita said. This is truly a tool, a platform that should be used for boosting cooperation in our region. we see that there are a lot of opportunities, but we also see that we don't know don't know quite each other, and that this type of networks, meetings, and especially in-person meetings are there to boost capacity building and also collaboration. So please take this network as a tool for broadening your impact. When Christine kindly shared with us the list of attendance of today's meeting, we saw that there are a lot of SMEs, which we of course knew before, but that is how we structured this presentation. Basically, here you can see the funding opportunities across the development stages of a company, where public support and grants can be actually taken from the very beginning, from idea or concept development till let's say users and already revenue gaining from the business. Why we would like to focus on grants and public support? Well, because of course it's equity free and it provides the opportunity for experimentation and for boosting innovation, not just within the company, but also innovative ways of collaboration and partnerships with universities, with academia in general, with research institutions. So broadening even the way how companies are thinking. So that is why in the upcoming slides we will be presenting certain calls and certain funding instruments that will be available till the end of this year that could benefit this network. First of all, let's go to the Interreg, where we have so many different opportunities for different regions with, of course, a different scope. Here, of course, you will have this presentation. You will see the links to all strands of cooperation. So from IPA to Center of Cooperation, Interreg B, Interreg C. However, here I will present just those that have the upcoming calls already available. Here for Hungary and Serbia, we have the announcement that roughly during the second part of 2025, we will have a new call for proposals. So colleagues from Serbia, stay tuned. Then we have Interreg Danube program. A couple of days ago, we have the announcement of the third call for proposals, pre-announcement. The official announcement will be and the opening date for the program will be somewhere mid-September. However, we know the deadline already, which will be 15th of December. Here you have the link to the call. However, let's now just briefly present what it is all about. I think that the first three specific objectives are very interesting to this network. However, so they are AI skills development for delivering products and services, which is specific objective 1.2. The webinar and the presentation is scheduled for the 2nd of July. Then specific objective 2.1, sustainable renewable energy solutions, and so on and so forth. I will not read entire scope of every of the calls. However, the webinar is on the 3rd of July, so next week. Specific objectives 2.2 and 2.3 are also quite interesting, but for 3.1 and 3.2, I would like to stress that they are for centers of vocational excellence. And as you can see, the webinar is scheduled for the 9th of July. So keep informed over here, and already now you can start thinking if calls are interested for you and who could be the partners maybe among these participants of this meeting. Interreg Euro-Mediterranean, at this moment they don't have opened calls. However, there are 2 calls that are planned. You see here restricted, so it means that there are 2-stage proposals, and they're planned somewhere towards the end of this year. So we also need to be alerted for this call. So now we will briefly skip to Erasmus calls and just get an overview what is happening in Erasmus and what type of funding instrument this is.
Okay, I will take over to get not only into Erasmus, but to cover a part of calls that are supporting cooperation among institutions, not that much innovation and research activities or commercialization activities, but really getting to cooperate, and we cooperated quite a lot during last 3 years with the kind support of ETF, but from next year onwards, we will have to find out the opportunity and find out the funding sources to cooperate together. And here we extracted just few of those programs. The first is Erasmus. This is the program which is supporting higher education institutions, meaning universities, faculties, to cooperate in development of different new curricula and joint programs and many other activities like knowledge exchange and so on. The Erasmus program is permanently opened. It started in 2022, and it has had since until now several deadlines, and the next deadline is the 27th of January next year. So this is the call that we might under which we might gather the universities within the network, and I think from each country in the network we have 1 or more universities, and we can target this call where there is enough time to initiate the cooperation and to use those opportunities to work together. There are also other opportunities, maybe more accessible for cooperation. One of them is CIPUS program, and this program is also a program which is supporting universities, but it is quite different. And what are the difference? The first difference is that it is targeting like smaller area. It is targeting Central Europe, including Western Balkans, and that's why it is, let's say, less competitive. Then it is easier to be funded under this program, and it is also in the first place targeting universities, but it is opened also to industrial partners, non-governmental institutions, to government partners, and to let's say all stakeholders from the quadruple helix to join and to participate in different activities supported by this program. The activities are quite different, from developing joint curricula, joint educational programs, which are very much needed, as Pirita emphasized in her presentation, but also enabling different kinds of mobilities, from excursions to short and long-term mobilities, completing PhD studies in the industry, getting practice in the industry for the students, or having the mobility to the higher education institutions from different countries. And it is, let's say, like scholarship-based cooperation, and the value of the network is validated based on its activities. So my opinion is that we should very thoroughly think about the possibility to initiate the CPUS network, which will cover the issues that we were dealing with within the ETF project, namely digitalization and greening of agri-food sector, and to have a comprehensive network which will cover all the activities in the future. Another opportunity, which is more related to the research cooperation, is the COST action, European Cooperation in Science and Technology, and this action is supporting interdisciplinary research network, which brings together researchers and innovators to investigate different topics, and it lasts for 4 years. And what I forgot to say, the CPUS network can last for 10 years. It is for long-term cooperation, and if we work proactively, we can stay together until many problems are solved and the situation is much changed. Let's say the cost action is supporting the researchers. Let's go back to that, but also SMEs and public institutions and other relevant institutions and interested parties in the topic which is chosen to initiate the cost action. There are many already existing cost action where we can join if there is interest, but we can also initiate one which will cover the research topics that or the more narrow area that we are interested in. And here are the links also. And now, Milica, please continue and present this important opportunity of provided by all the opportunities or selected opportunities provided by Horizon Europe.
Thank you, Jasna. Yes, another framework program is Horizon Europe for research and innovation. Of course, I'm very positive that all of you heard about this flagship framework. Why it's not? It's moving, and it is extremely large. And of course, we would need one entire day to cover all the pillars, everything that is going on within Horizon. However, for this presentation, we focused on pillar 2 and 3 and widening participation, since that is mostly focused on our region. At this moment, if you go to participant portal, you will see 508 open calls in these sections and 54 forthcoming calls, so those that are announced and will be open in the near future. However, for pillar 2, I would like to focus on cluster 6, so food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture, and environment, though there can be also potentially very interesting calls in other clusters. But as I said, we have just here 30 minutes and Christine is already, I think, nervous about the timing. So I urge you to go to the portal and check the opportunities. Why widening? Because those calls are specifically dedicated to, among other things, our region. So let's present just several calls here, just for you to think and maybe to be inspired for some new. Here, one call, preparatory action for setting up joint programs among innovation ecosystem actors. Why am I presenting this? Because here you will see the focus will be on national, regional, and local authorities. So they are those that are invited to connect and to innovate the ecosystem around them. So SMEs and we as the research institutes are there to support this type of action. The deadline is 15th of October. You will see in all the calls that are presented. So the deadlines are, let's say, reachable. So they are not in July or August. but later on during this year. The second one that might be of interest to you, to some of you, implementing co-funded action plans for connected regional innovation valleys. Although this is co-fund action, I think that this network with entire quadruple helix involved is invited to be part of and to apply to this call. Why? Because it's creation of efficient, open, inclusive, and interconnected European innovation ecosystems, also with a deadline towards the end of the year, so 15th of October. And the next one is similar call, however, focused in widening countries. So in destination Videra, also with a deadline of 15th of October. This is very interesting because you will see the two similar calls. However, you cannot answer the same with the same objectives, with the same scope of work to both of them. I am always for Videra calls since they are targeting widening countries, and we can there tailor the activities that are actually of interest to us and that can bring additional value to our economies. And now one call that specifically targets SMEs, EAC Pre-Accelerator, also for the widening countries. It's coordination and support action, the deadline even further, 18th of November. And what is interesting here, so they're inviting deep tech SMEs to develop their solutions. So they need to start from TRL 4 and to finish with TRL, let's say 5 or 6. So technology demonstrated in a relevant environment. Of course, equity free, as we know in Horizon. However, here the 70% is funding rate for SMEs, and 30% of the entire budget needs to be co-funded by the beneficiary, and the projects are supposed to last for 2 years. I recommend you to check this call. And now also one of the, let's say, tools, instruments from the European Commission and Horizon is the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. They're also having 2 very interesting calls, but I will now invite Jasna to overtake so you're not bored with me. Jasna, you're muted. We don't hear you.
Sorry, thank you very much. Now I will take over and talk about several opportunities for SME to be funded regarding innovation. And one of them is provided, a lot of them are provided by European Institute of Innovation and Technology. Just a few introductions that this Institute of Innovation and Technology is structured within the knowledge and innovation communities, which are covering different solutions which are addressing global challenges, including the climate changes, the digital transformation, food, health, energy, manufacturing, raw materials, urban mobility. And what is the most interesting for us is the food, the knowledge and innovation community, which is covering the issues that we are mainly dealing with. It is a huge program which is run by the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, with already attracted investment of 9.5 billion. And with more than 2,000 leading partners and more than almost 10,000 ventures supported. That is really huge opportunity, and it is more or less it was membership based, and still some activities are membership based, but there are many activities which can be which are accessible also to any partner who is interested in the activities. And now we will mention some of them. Melissa, if you can change the slide.
Okay, trying.
Oh, what's happened?
I don't know. Technology. Speaking of Institute for Technology.
Yes, no.
Okay, here it is.
Now the next slide. The next slide. Yes. There is one call which will be closed quite in a short time. Not closed. It is just the expression of interest until the 5th of July, and it is targeting the regenerative agricultural landscapes and the interested companies or cooperatives, farmers cooperatives, or other partners that might make a demonstration in regenerative agriculture should express their interest by the 15th of July. And you can find more information in the link which is attached. And the other opportunity is the proof of concept co-financing instrument. And this instrument is targeting the proof of concept, which is proof of concept projects which are connecting SMEs, innovative SMEs, startups with innovative solutions with large corporations in terms to scale up accelerate the growing of the invention. And it has several cutoff dates, which are on a monthly basis, and the last one is at the end of November, end of November this year. So for all SMEs who have such opportunities, the invention which is needing the proof of concept, and you need a partner to whom you can possibly license your IP from this invention, you can apply to this instrument and use it as an opportunity. There is also other opportunity for innovation, that is Eureka program, and this program is also supporting the partnership with the innovative SMEs, but it is supporting the other side of partnership, international cooperation, and also cooperation with academic institutions where the innovative solutions which can support the development of innovative solutions. And this is, let's say, regarding this program, there are different opportunities and upcoming programs. We didn't put the links here, but there will be in the autumn one Eurostar program, which is supporting innovation, and one network program, which is targeting the Western Balkans. So we can also think about those goals and use them for in our future activities. So, Melissa, please, you can continue now.
Thanks a lot. And last but certainly not least, there are other potential collaboration opportunities that are provided by different agencies that are operating in the Western Balkans, and which aim is, among other things, to either boost collaboration or scaling and upscaling of employees within our region and within the topics that are of interest to us. There are also, so I will not in detail present GIZ, Austrian Development Agency, Letas, and so on and so forth. However, it's very important for you to know that we are monitoring their calls, their activities, their invitations for expression of interest and for proposals, but also it is quite interesting also for you to monitor and to follow what they're doing, just in terms of maybe some of them are specifically focused on the area that you are currently working on. These are just some of those that are operating in all our economies, and that they are having maybe in the upcoming period some interesting calls. With this, I would like to finish our presentation. Christine, hopefully we are on time, and Jasna and I are open for all your questions, concerns, suggestions.
Thank you so much, Jasna and Milica. I know we have been bombarding you with many, many different opportunities, but that was actually also the purpose to present you. You have all the links there. But I think the main message is that to use this platform to find partners and to really also count on Biosense. Jasna and Milica have a lot of experience. It doesn't mean that Biosense need to be partner in all the projects. We could put but they are there to really help you and guide you as well in case you're interested in applying. We also know that don't be discouraged. It doesn't mean that you apply for the first time that you already win maybe after the first time when you apply for any project. We know it is very complicated. It's very complex. We as ETF, we cannot be involved as so much in depth. It would create conflict of interest because we are also the EU. So, but of course, we can also still help connecting people and especially using this platform to partner and to apply for projects. I'll give you maybe two questions we can take now before we move to look for the third block. There is one question. Okay.
Yeah, hi guys.
Yes, Adil, please go ahead.
I just wanted to ask Milica, Jasna, and you guys from ETF, is there a plan to apply for some of the projects or open calls that Milica firstly discussed, and with this network and with the people that we've been working with for the past 3 years?
Yes, that is our intention. But of course, we cannot apply. We cannot write the proposal just on our own, and so we need you. And actually, that is one of the reasons why we are here right now. We presented some of the calls, but this is just like 1%. I would like to invite all of you that would like to work with us on the proposals and further within ETF network that we are building to really contact me. In the upcoming days, I'm here, not going to vacation, but we'll be preparing this, and there are some other calls in Digital Europe that could be of interest to us. So yes, definitely.
Well,
But we need to, just one. We don't want to impose. We as Biosense don't want to impose topic, impose a way of collaboration, and so on. But we would like really to collect expressions of interest. So you that are interested to work with us on this, and then to agree on the call on the topic that is most relevant for our purpose. And then to build together things. We are here to write it, to guide it, to, let's say, manage the process. As Christine said, it is a quite exhausting process, but we are experienced and we have capacity to do it. But on the other side, we don't want to impose, let's say, digital technologies for agriculture that we are working on, but to be focused. So don't look at us just as Biosense, but look at us as multipliers of knowledge in terms of reaching funding opportunities.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. That was part of the second question, because I'm really interested to help out with the growing and of this network, and I will definitely contact you guys.
Great. Looking forward.
Brilliant. That's very nice to hear. I see that also Adil, he's our EU peer learning, let's say, partner during the project. I think he is also interested to know what's going on. We also, in project proposals, we also need EU universities or EU companies. And so that's also, we have to use also, I know that also today was also Leen here from Belgium, from the vet school. So we have other EU partners in the platform, and of course others still that can join. Adil, is there something you would like to ask specifically?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, already Melissa has answered my question, so
Yes.
thank you very much. And I want to thank you all for wonderful insights and the good work so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adil. Thank you. So I'm looking at the time. For the moment, there's no other question. I would really like to move now to the third block of this webinar. I'll give the floor to Luc van Loveren from the let's say Chamber of Commerce from the Flanders region in Belgium, to give you also a lot of insights to help you exporting your product to the EU single market. So Luc, last but not least, it's up to you now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christine. And I see that my presentation is coming on the screen very rapidly. Thank you very much. So yes, my name is Luc van Loveren. I started working already back in 1987 as a business advisor, international trade at the Chamber of Commerce in Antwerp. And already since that period, end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, I started mapping a little bit all the EU product rules. I found it interesting pieces of a puzzle to try to put together. And in one of the sectors, of course, you find a lot of pieces to make the puzzle together. And then we talk about the EU product rules for agricultural products and food products. And in all these years, I started working out, in fact, a specific toolkit, a kind of checklist, whereby it helps you to identify in a rather efficient way for any kind of agricultural product or a foodstuff, all these different rules that you need to know. We may go to the next slide, please. And yes, in this slide, I try to give you an idea how I tried in a kind of arbitrary way to map all the most important EU food laws. First, of course, you have the laws touching the primary products, the agricultural products and fishery products. And then in all these next chapters, we try to put rules under the chapter technical rules when the most important elements refer to technical issues. The same for a chapter on labeling rules and for packaging materials. And what I did was to find out, of course, for all these topics that you see here on the screen, and there are subtopics, of course, as well, to find out what are the EU regulations, what are the directives, their numbers, their titles. And then we can already go to the next slide. And in fact, the toolkit consists also of a document in Word, whereby for all these topics, you find a question. And with that kind of questionnaire, you can go to a company and use it as a kind of acquis communautaire audit checklist, as we used to call that in previous years, whereby you can help a company to mark from that whole list of, let's say, 50 topics, what is relevant. And for example, you see here, the question is then, do you produce or distribute quick frozen foodstuffs? If the answer is no, okay, that's clear. If it is yes, then you immediately know that there is this directive of 108 of 1989, which is relevant. And then you can, of course, mark in such a checklist in how far you know the matter, implement it, etc. The next slide, please. I would like to demonstrate this tool very briefly, because we don't have so much time, with one example. And I take the example of a bottle of vegetable oil, rapeseed oil of 1 liter. The next slide, please. What I recommend is to use the toolkit that I developed, which can be helpful, I think, for making this kind of exercise, together with one very interesting website, which is free accessible to all of us. And that is the Access to Markets database, of which you see the link here on the screen. And in the next slide, I will show you how you can combine the use of these two sources, the website, together with my checklist, in order to find out rapidly all the different rules that touch a certain product. The next slide, please. So in the website of the Access to Markets database, let us assume that we make, for this exercise, a search. I put here already the HS code in the first box. Then I assumed that we would send the product from Albania to Belgium. The next slide, please. And in the Access to Markets database, you can find then easily for this kind of shows an example, what are possible tariffs still to be paid, import tariffs to import the product in the EU. But I would like to draw the attention to the chapter import requirements, and more specific under these specific import requirements, you can find already a quite good idea on about laws, product laws that touch this product. The next slide, please. And in the middle, I just copied the list of topics that you then find on the screen in the Access to Markets database. On the right side, I try to group them so that you have an idea what it's all about. So you discover then rules on contaminants, GMOs, which is only relevant if they're evolved, of course, very important hygiene rules, some environmental issues, labeling issues, and voluntary organic production issues. But what is important is, for this example, a bottle from plastic, 1 liter, you don't find then on the screen the rules on packaging, because the system cannot know how you pack the product, what kind of packaging material you use. So that's why that's already one reason why I invite you to use also the checklist that I can share with you, and I can send the Word document after this presentation. The next slide, please. In this slide and the next slides, I put on the screen in the blue on the upper part how you find the same topic as a question in my checklist, and with also the reference numbers of the regulations. So when we look at contaminants, we find for this kind of vegetable oil already a rule about plant toxins. And when you then go into the text of this regulation, you just type in the word oils, then you find quite quickly the so-called maximum level of erythric acid for that kind of product. So this is how you can then find your way inside a regulation to that very specific info. The next slide, please. You also have then the other broader, let's say, basket of contaminants, and in that same regulation, you can, by typing the word oils, find the maximum levels of, for example, lead that should be in fats and oils. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. I show a few more of these examples with the same search in the same regulation. You can also find maximum levels of so-called PAH in that kind of products. The next slide, please. One more that you can find here, and I come back in some of the later slides to refer to this kind of things, the so-called fatty acid esters, again, with some maximum levels to be present in the vegetable oils. The next slide, please. And I think this is the last one, I guess. There is also a kind of maximum level for this example, for the so-called glycidol esters. Yeah. The next slide, please. Oh, yes, one more still. Even for dioxins and PCBs, you find out then when you look at oils, what should be the maximum levels of dioxins and PCBs. Okay, the next slide. Good. Now we still have also under contaminants in the checklist, you can find this regulation, the possibility to look for the so-called maximum pesticide residues. Here in this case, you can look at the database, but the database refers then to the pesticide residues, the maximum levels for the seeds, the vegetable oil seeds. But then you can read that when you go further in the processing, and you look at the processed oils, that you can take into consideration a so-called diluting factor starting from the limit that you find for the seeds in the database. Okay, that's just a bit guidance about this. The next slide, please. The topic of hygiene, of course, for any kind of products you will find in my checklist and also in the database of Access to Markets reference to this important legal legislative package. Most important that you need to remember, of course, is that when you want to produce in the EU or export to the EU as a food producer, that you need to have a HACCP system or a system that is equivalent. But there are many other issues explained in that legislative package, which you need to comply to be allowed to export foodstuffs to the EU. Yes, you may go to the next slide, please. Yes, I skip here now from EU legislation to the Codex Alimentarius of the World Health Organization. Why? Because in the previous slide, I referred to the HACCP system, to, in fact, principles for food hygiene. And you find a lot of documents, guiding documents about how to set up a HACCP system, etc., in the Codex Alimentarius. And you can download these documents for free in many different languages, as you can see. The one that I put here on the screen is the one about general principles of food hygiene that is relevant regarding HACCP. The next slide, please. In the same Codex Alimentarius, when you look then at the products like oils, you can find also some specific guidance documents for good hygiene for that kind of products. So that again is an interesting, let's see, describing document that can help you to comply with what you find in the EU legislation in terms of the food hygiene. The next slide, please. Yes, I also want to draw the attention to some technical documents, standards for a lot of food products, which you also find on that same site of the Codex Alimentarius. So that means that if you would be a producer of vegetable oils, you can find here some technical descriptions who show how in the best conditions you can then produce that kind of products and already try to reach a lot of quality levels, including hygiene and etc. The next slide, please. Yes, of course, such a product needs to have labeling. And here you find an in my checklist, but also explained via access to markets. When you look at labeling, the general regulation on labeling foodstuffs that are to be meant for the consumer. So this regulation explains what are all the obligatory elements to be put on such a packaging, etc. The next slide, please. I also put in my checklist, I'm not sure if you find it with the search under access to markets, this directive that explains how you have to put the so-called lot or the batch number on a foodstuff. So this is not a very complicated law, but interesting to at least know where you put all the pieces together for knowing the EU rules for that product. Yes, you may go to the next slide, please. As you already remembered from the search in the access to markets, there's usually the reference made to GMOs, but of course GMOs is only relevant if they are concerned in a processed foodstuff. If there are no GMOs at stake, then of course you don't have to look at it. But of course the legislative framework explains that you can only work with authorized GMOs, but that's the only thing to remember here. The next slide, please. And I also include in my checklist, and you also find it via the Access to Markets database, the legislation about bringing organic products on the market. So this is the only topic which is in fact voluntary, because nobody is obliged to go further than what legislation is asking, and this is a voluntary scheme, but it has advantages because when you have certification for organic production, you can put this nice green leaf logo on your packaging, and of course there is a growing let's say interest amongst consumers in the EU to find on the shelves of the supermarkets that kind of products with the green leaf logo, organic products. The next slide, please. Yes, so as I mentioned, you will not find these laws on packaging when you do the search in the Access to Markets database. That's why it could be an added value by using my toolkit. And I refer here to a directive which dates already from 1976, and it explains that for all the prepared and pre-packed foodstuffs in a packaging ranging from 5 grams or 5 milliliters till 10 kilograms or 10 liters, that you have to indicate the weight or the volume. And on top of that, if you have a good machine that can really fill up the packaging in a very correct way with some tiny allowed, let's say, let's say, deviations from the indicated packaging, then you are allowed to put that E symbol, the so-called EEC mark, on the packaging. Now, in other words, if you would not have that E symbol on the packaging, that means that you will probably not have a real high quality packaging machine, in fact. So you'll find that E symbol on nearly each pre-packed foodstuff that you find in any kind of distribution chain in the EU. But it's interesting to know it, and of course then to know also this typical graphic representation of this E symbol. Yes, you may go to the next slide, please. I also include in the checklist this EU directive on packaging and packaging waste, because what is important, you see here an example of a logo which is used in many EU countries. This logo shows that if you have it on the packaging, that the company that brings a consumer product, a foodstuff on the market, is registered at a national scheme which takes over the responsibility for collecting and recycling the packaging waste. So if you are in Albania selling this bottle to any kind of member state in the EU, you have to know this, and you have to find out together with the buyer in the EU member state which of the two would then take that step to register for that national scheme of collecting and recycling packaging waste. And then you also know what kind of logo, maybe this green dot logo, that you have to put on the packaging. The next slide, please. And the last topic, it's about the real food packaging material, which we call in this type of legislation the so-called food contact materials, that are the kind of packagings that have a direct contact with the food. So in this case, if you have a producer in Albania making that kind of vegetable oil, this producer should ask the supplier of his plastic bottles, can you give me a declaration of conformity with these EU regulations, so that we know that this plastic is a plastic which is allowed, which is then checked, which has then, let's say, maximum migration limits for migrating plastic from the packaging to the food, etc. So this is the kind of framework that you need to know for complying with this piece of legislation. Yes, you may go to the next slide. And then here I try to sum up what it means if you have done this exercise, going through the different chapters that I have listed in that toolkit, together with your search, for example, in access to markets database. And then you find out that, okay, we have the products edible oils. We already find out that we have to look at a so-called maximum level of erucic acid as a plant toxin. We know that we have to look at the main hygienic legislative package of the EU to have a registered company to work with a HACCP system or equivalent. When we look at for food contaminants, we know that for oils we have to look at the maximum levels for lead, dioxins, PAHs, etc. As regards the MRLs for the pesticides, we understand there may be a default limit for the seeds, which is then leading to a dilution finally in the product. And then under labeling, we have for the consumer packaging, the general labeling requirements. We have this lot number to be put on the packaging in the correct way. Already in the general law, we also find out how we have to put a table with nutrition values. We can only use authorized GMOs. And if we want to qualify for organic products, we have to, of course, go through a whole process to comply with that legislation. And finally, when we look at the packaging, we know that we have a pre-packed product with, let's say, a contents of 1 liter. We understand that this has to be put on the packaging. If we have to want to use the EEC mark, we must make sure that we have very correct measuring of our machine, etc. And we know that, okay, in each member state of the EU, we must make sure that the registration is done for the products and the packaging that we bring on the market to be sure that we comply with that legislation. And finally, yes, because of using plastic, we must make sure that we comply with the rules on the food contact materials. So this is about how to summarize when you do an exercise by using this toolkit checklist. The next slide, please. And yes, indeed, I think this is already the last one. I just repeat here briefly some interesting websites where you can find out even more info, more guidance, where you can find out if some food laws are under, let's say, or if some changes are in preparation or whatever. You find also the link to the Codex Alimentarius, a few topics that we didn't look at in detail. It's about specific geographical indications, where you find the websites at the European Commission, and so on and so on. So I went quite quickly through this as an exercise because the time was not so longly foreseen. But I hope that there are still a few minutes that allow a question to be sent. And I thank you a lot for your attention.
Thank you so much, Luc. Also, perfect timing, and I think it shows again how complex everything is, you know, for an agri-food company from the Balkan to export to the EU single market. And I'm pretty sure that the access to finance, access to market website, together with the checklist that you have created all over these years, are really very useful to for companies, agri-food companies, the ones that are producing, of course, agri-food is really very useful. Let's see if there are some questions from our participants. Might have been a bit too much for the moment to digest. Questions will probably come up when you know people will start using it. I see also Anna Kotevska from she's a professor at the University from North Macedonia. She was also nodding to say, yeah, she might be aware of the complexity of all that. You would like to add something, Anna? Something you would like to share? What did you find it interesting?
Good afternoon to everyone. It was a very nice webinar. I have to say that all the three presentations were quite informative. First with Pirita's presentation on the results, then all those funding opportunities, and now your detailed presentation and all the steps. So I find this toolkit quite useful. I'm thankful that someone has made it easy for those who are not much into this topic, so that can easily follow all the details, and hope that we can have an access to the toolkit that you have prepared, just to get more into this. Because I'm working more on agriculture policy and some other aspect like human resources, but not in food safety. And for myself, I find this toolkit quite useful, just to know all the other steps that need to be fulfilled just to meet the EU standards. So thank you all, and ETF for organizing this.
Thank you, Anna. Okay, Pirita.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted you to step in. Well, Luc, we know Luc from a long time ago. Thanks, Luc, for coming in here. I mean, I think it's been a decade, literally, since we last saw each other. I just wanted to step in quickly and say also for Luc that in the research, if you look at our report and you look at the technology readiness, you'll see that food safety has a high impact, but has a very low level of adoption. And this is something that you know, is definitely an issue in the Western Balkans, especially looking at the imminent sort of entry of some of the countries into the European Union. Food safety is a very big concern in EU member states. So this is really important. So I think you hit the nail on the head, you know, with the presentation on that. And I think that's why it was really important. It's good that Christine was able to bring you on board. Yeah, I mean, thank you from my side very much. I think it's a lot of information, and I know that from experience already that when Luc gives a presentation, and then we'll share your presentation so people have access to all the links. So we may come back to you at a later stage to discuss more in detail. Also, many of the organic food producers, for instance, were not here today, so we'll catch up on that. Thanks again, Luc.
Maybe a very small remark. Of course, what I explained now was firstly from the point of view of exporting to the EU, but we talk here also about candidate countries for membership to the EU. And in all these candidate countries in the Western Balkan, they have to realize that, at a certain moment, we will be in that EU. And of course, we still don't know yet when that will happen, but the sooner that you comply, because you want to export to the EU, but of course, the sooner you will be also ready for being in the EU, because once you're in the EU, and I learned that from the countries that joined in 2004, you only have then still a very tiny timetable sometimes to comply. Because once in the EU, you have to fully implement all these rules, such as the hygienic package, etc. And I learned from that period that in the accessing countries becoming a member in 2004, the local ministry explained me in Lithuania, okay, we just grouped all the foodstuff operators in categories A, B, C, D. Those that were already put in D, that meant, okay, they will stop when we join the EU because they will not make it. So that's also something to be put into consideration. It's not only about now and exporting to the EU, to be ready for exporting, but also to be prepared for accession and becoming a member of the EU, and make sure that you don't miss that opportunity and that you don't have to close your company simply because you don't make it to implement that EU legislation. That's just I wanted to share.
Yeah,
No, thank you
absolutely.
for adding,
And
yeah.
sorry, can I, Christine? I think what we're now seeing, Luke, also for your information, we're seeing a lot of discussion now on adult learning, micro-credentials, so really the upskilling and the fine-tuning of the knowledge of those already active in work life. And I think a lot of your syllabus that you've developed would be very interesting for us also moving forward in looking at developing possibly some micro-credentials in some of those areas, because the materials that you've developed is already a massive kind of stepping stone to do that. So I think you can expect some follow-up later on. It takes a little time to digest. Thanks again, Luke.
Yes, thank you, Britta. Actually, I was in the same lines. Indeed, it could also be an idea for a future project, to work on these issues and to prepare businesses to these compliance and standardization. So I think it's very important. I see Branislav Slatko, you would like to add something? We still have 3 minutes before closing.
So, okay, just my wheels turning in my head about the last part from Luke and how we can implement that in some of our exercises in marketing. So everything was really nice, but like the last part, like trying to figure out something to do interesting for the students for next semester, that would be great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Since
Okay,
nobody's
Branislav, I know you're
talking,
not...
Branislav, I responded to you in the chat.
Okay.
I responded.
Yes, please go ahead. Go ahead.
I responded back to Pirita directly. We were chatting about a project for Interreg Danube that I have an idea for, and I wanted to chat with you guys about it.
Perfect. Very good. Very positive. Okay, I think we can then close this webinar. If there are no other questions or things that you would like to share, no? Okay, then I wish to thank especially also the speakers, Jasna, Milica, Luc, and Brita, for this interesting webinar. As I said, it has been a lot of information, but you will receive the PowerPoint, the recording, so you can really go back to all this, and of course also come back to ETF, to Biosense, if you really are looking for partners. We can help you as well for the projects, and then I can also put you in touch with Luc van Loveren in case you have would like to have some more information on his presentation. So thank you so much and have a good afternoon. It's Friday afternoon, so I hope you don't have to work too late today and enjoy the good weather. At least it's good weather here in Turin. So I wish you also then a good weekend for later on. Thanks again, and see you at the next webinar, as Brita said, it probably end of September, October. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Enjoy your well-deserved weekend. Bye.
Yes, you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.